So continuing with our walk through market values and investments, a couple of a couple of ideas that we're going through here is that, for example, smart investment decisions make more money than smart financing decisions. As we're looking in this chapter, you see that investment decisions vary based on the projections of earnings, basically, and of course, not just with financing decisions, but you can make a lot more money if your model is simply working. Um, and basically, this is all about we're projecting earnings less costs and trying to see what is the positive cash flow and then discount it to create a positive NPV. And the idea that we're talking about is if you do have a positive MVP, we're trying to get into the idea of is it because of a comparative advantage that you have in this business, and if so, for how long do you have it? And we're trying not to overestimate cash flows so that this is a very accurate process, so that we can really get to the right numbers and make the right investment decision. As you see, there's to actually do this, there's big stakes on the line, and you have to really get to this accuracy and also be very good at estimating years down the line. And that's where we'll look at some of the examples later in the book where you have to understand how will competitors react to you, how quickly can they eat away your advantage, and will prices change that will change your earnings and cash flows. And there's a lot of moving pieces here to really understand sometimes, but it's very interesting. So the first example that we're going to go through is the department store, and this is on page 280, 281. And basically what we're talking about is we have a department store that costs $100 million basically for the real estate, and it can make $8 million a year in cash flows from the store itself. And then assuming the real estate appreciates at 3% a year, after 10 years, we can sell the real estate out for 134 million. And then as you see, this series has an NPV, a positive NPV of 1 million. But notice the question here basically, which I think is relevant to the retail industry a lot of times, is how sensitive this NPV is to the real estate. And then we're really involved with two different businesses, right? Um, if you notice that if you could sell the real estate at the end of the 10 years for 120 million, then actually the NPV ends up being -5. So as you see -5, it's already not worth it to do the whole thing. And we're being sensitive to the real estate. Then we go into scenario number 2. What if it would be better to rent the real estate or have a subsidiary where you're actually renting the real estate and the renter charging you 7 million, so but it is growing at 3% a year? Basically, what is going on with that? And with this, you are able to still make a positive NPV, but we can see that the rental charge increases as it increases over time. Um, in year 5, it's actually higher than the income, so it stops being worth it in year 5 to continue to operate. And then the idea is, hey, we could just, if we own the store, we could simply rent it out, and it would be better than running the business. So basically, this is the dilemmas that I'm essentially in the retail industry and then in the real estate industry by owning this department store and operating it. And the idea is that if you are the department store owner and you believe even this rental charge is higher, that it's still worth it to operate the department store, then you must be ignoring some other factor because the NPV is negative. So the other factor you must be ignoring is that quite possibly there's some income growth to the department store that you are ignoring. And that piece, if properly incorporated, may have you reconsider and see that it maybe is still worth it to operate it, even though the NPV then would change, of course.